Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Tesla Life with the crazy music going on and off. Number 144 for
DJ Casey,
15th,
master.
The 15th of April, halfway through April already. Yes, indeed. How is everyone today? I hope you're all well. Let's go to our panel today. We've got, of course, Patrick Connor joining us from the West Coast. How are you today, sir?
I'm doing well. Welcome to show number 12 squared.
12 squared, exactly. A little math for everybody. Patrick, you promised there'd be no math during this show.
Hey, our audience, this is Tesla crew. They can handle it. Tesla Nation knows math.
Fair enough. Also joining us as per regular, Mr. Casey Green joins us from the DC area. How are you today, sir?
I'm doing okay.
Excellent. Everyone's self or physical distancing, right? Everyone's still physical distancing. We're all doing the show from independent corners of the earth.
Yes, flatten the curve, baby.
That's
just
right.
Just dialed into the car. It's at 49%. Didn't realize. Woke it up.
Fair enough.
49%. That's actually a little PSA we should do. If you have a Tesla and you're not driving it, you should make sure that you leave it in the nice middle third. Leave it plugged in. That's what the owner's manual recommends. Have it slid down so that you're in 50, 60, 70% range, because it's going to be sitting there for a while. Unless you actually are driving, there certainly are a few people who are essential workers or whatever. And but if you're not, if your car's sitting, give it some love and leave it plugged in. Leave it in that middle range, and let a happy Tesla is a plugged-in Tesla.
And if you're like me and you are at an apartment or condo, you might want to go to 75%. Like, assuming that you don't have regular charging, go to 75%. Let it drift its way down to right now 50 or so. Watch it some more. When it gets down to the 30, go boost it back up 75 and come back home.
Good advice. What would you guys do if you were driving maybe 60 miles a day? You were still doing 60 miles round trip.
I could do that on 30%.
Yeah, well, that's true. That's true. The math would say that. Yeah.
So
I just don't like to park
it
yellow.
65%. And there you go.
And there's your top up at 65.
Yeah.
And the minimum that Tesla will let you set it to is 50 while charging. So.
Yeah. Fair enough. All right. Well, let's get to the news, because the news never stops in the world of Tesla, as we know. The first story is basically is a bit of a delay. We heard via tweets that Battery Day has now been delayed till probably mid-May, is what Mr. Musk promoted recently. When prompted about Battery Day, which was supposed to be, without the health crisis that's going on, was supposed to be sometime in May, which would have been normally is still the start of the second quarter. So that was when it was originally slated for, and it's unfortunate that we have to wait a little bit longer. But in the light of what's going on, it certainly makes a lot of sense. The world is concerned with other more pressing matters. I don't think Tesla would get as much airtime as they typically would if they were to go ahead with it. And again, more pressing things are happening. So let's just concentrate on what we have to get through here for the next month.
The stock call is on the 29th now, right? They just announced that.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah.
So, and speaking of stock, man, through the roof again, still climbing today, yesterday, and a couple of analysts pointing out that they believe it's going higher too. So it's interesting watching the stock market. It's all over the board for other car companies, but for Tesla, man, this seems to be a good thing. They just believe that they're in a good position when we come out of this. But enough of that. Next story was another tweet update. And we found out that the Cybertruck is to have some sort of a Plaid powertrain. Elon had made a response to a tweet as people were talking about cars that they wanted to own. The Plaid Model S came up, and Elon commented on a tweet with his own, indicating that his new car will be the Cybertruck with the Plaid option. So we all did know that there's a tri-motor coming for the Cybertruck, but we didn't know if there was going to be anything beyond that. The actual powertrain was not mentioned previously, so this is kind of a new, I guess, addition to what we knew before. I can just share the picture of the tweet here that Elon had sent. So he was commenting on a few things, and then indicated that the Plaid Cybertruck is what I will drive. So what do you guys think of that? Kind of surprised that they're going to actually add the Plaid powertrain to the truck, or did it seem kind of anticlimactic? Did you believe that would be the case?
I'm hoping that if you pick tri-motor, that they'll have an option to pick up Plaid.
Yeah, I think that I was listening to some other Tesla show, and they were talking about how they think this means there's going to be a 4-motor option. And that's not what he said, so I wouldn't jump to that conclusion. I think it's just going to be an upgrade to the tri-motor, but we'll see. I think it's cool. The nice thing about the Tesla pickup, the Cybertruck, is that it has a low starting price. And then that allows a lot of people to get in and get a really cool vehicle. And then if you want to option it up and get a performance version of a truck for whatever reason, if you want one, there you go. There's the option. And it allows Tesla to have a higher margin part, and it allows people to have cooler vehicles. I'm all for it.
Well, I mean, that's what we did with the Model X. We said, well, we're going to tow. On a fossil car, you need to bump up the engine one size from what you need to tow, and nobody would tell us on electric, so we got the P100D with the Ludicrous Plus, and I'd like my next truck to be faster than the last one if possible. So that would be awesome.
Yeah, it's but isn't it kind of interesting that that Plaid has been introduced previously for the more upscale car, so the X, the S. Yeah. Is the Cybertruck in that category as well now, or is it just that they have the ability to do so, and they will do it as they see fit?
It makes sense. You got the tri-motors, you got the big battery. I'm guessing it might be more fusing, and it'd be even better if it has like an extra set of wheels you can swap in on the track.
Kind of funny if they're sharing a lot of the drivetrain with the Roadster.
Yeah,
they're two very different vehicles.
I mean, the S and the X share a drivetrain.
Maybe the Roadster will come with the option of getting a set of dually wheels too.
I doubt that. When you look at it, they're kind of like Honda in that way. Like they only make 3 different cars, like the Odyssey and the Civic, or sorry, the Accord and the Civic. That's all they make. The CR-V is a Civic. The Odyssey is a Accord, and
yeah, it has underpinnings.
So you got the Model S, the Model X, and then eventually you'll just have the Roadster. The Roadster is everything, and then the Model 3 is everything. The Semi is 2 Model 3s.
Yeah, 3 Model 3s, right? It's
2.
And 10 battery packs.
Yeah,
exactly. And 10 battery packs, exactly. Exactly. Well, another story that's come up is what's been happening recently in China. We know that the Shanghai GigaFactory has been up and running for some time. In fact, they've reached some goals of the production per week, and the cars are continuing to roll out. But what's interesting here is that China, which is coming out of the health crisis a little bit earlier than us, their government is starting to push different incentives again for EVs, wanting to jump the start there. What happened in March is we reported on this earlier that Tesla basically had record sales for the Model 3 in China. And they also was interesting that they basically of all the EVs sold in China, which is quite a few, there's all different types of brands that are sold there. Tesla sold over a third of their own cars for that. So they took quite a chunk of the market for their second month into operation, or 2.5 months, however you want to look at it. But what's interesting now is that there are a few incentives that are being introduced by the Chinese government, and that's a bit of a golden opportunity for Tesla as well to take some more market share, with people being able to cash in a little bit more on the EV incentives. Hopefully they're able to purchase more buying power, can get into the market quicker, can maybe get an upscale Tesla. The Model 3 obviously now has a long-range variant and a performance variant that you can get in China now as well. So those are pluses to the market that may allow someone to jump the scale a little bit to get into a different, a higher scale if they want, or be introduced to the market in the first place on the low scale. But either way, Tesla gets another sale. So that's a plus for them, and it looks like it's starting to push those cars out a little bit further and faster. So it's going to be interesting watching to see how that market progresses with the world crisis, the health crisis going on. We don't know how that is working out in North America. Obviously, we're weeks behind them in opening. So we want to see how it starts to jumpstart in Asia to see if things start to pick up where they left off.
Yeah, this is a real opportunity for people to sit back and look at how the world could be without all the emissions that we have to deal with. I mean, I know the problem that we have is the health issue is a tragic problem, but it does allow you to realize, hey, if you go running or biking while social distancing, that, hey, look how great the air is. You can see the stars at night. There have been some pictures floating around of being able to see the LA skyline from the hills, which you haven't been able to see in years. And so this is a chance for us to think about how we really live our lives, and maybe there are better ways than what we've been doing.
Yeah, that's something that a lot of people, I hope, are realizing that in their daily life. If they are getting out for walks in a city area that was typically smoggy, or had some pollution that was encroaching on them, to be able to see mountains now when you never had seen them before is a thing that we see often now on Twitter. A number of cities across the world, people are saying, hey, I didn't even know this view was available from where I lived, because in the past it was covered by smog. And I just took it as that's the way it is, not that there was a nice view beyond it that I just never had been able to see previously. So that'll be, yeah, it's interesting to see how people will take that. But China, of course, with the pollution problems they've had, they're trying to push EVs in every way they can to actually help their not only the economy, but the reduction of pollution would be a win for all Chinese citizens as well. So,
and they're doing a decent job too. I mean, the Model 3 is making records over there, as well as I believe what was it, Peugeot. In fact, they just stopped all fossil production over in China, and they're seeing the light now. If we can all see the light. And I think we might see the Model Y be a huge success over there, because it's got more room, but it doesn't take up too much more space on the ground. So that might be really popular.
Yeah, that Model Y line is going in as we speak at GigaFactory Shanghai. And of course, the other little tidbit we've got about the Model Y was that it's not going to show up in Europe anytime soon.
Not till Giga Berlin.
Really?
That's right. The plan apparently is wait till GigaFactory Berlin is up and running before the Model Y shows up in Europe. Yeah. So
wow.
That would be not great for if you're in Europe, but certainly on the cost of shipping vehicles around the world, it's a big win for Tesla that if they could get that up and running and then just make them locally, the shipping is a lot less expensive and a lot less time to deliver them. So
I wonder if that's when we'll see the phase out of Model X and Model S worldwide as far as places that it has to get on a boat to arrive to.
Could be.
Or at least
Could
a
be.
de-emphasis, if not a phase out. Like, hey, you get this much more car if you buy this one that's built locally.
Yeah. Well, a number of people are speculating that the Model X is living on borrowed time.
No!
There's a lot of speculation that it's people that have it comparing it to the X they already have.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, there's extra bells and whistles. Yes, there's an extra display. Yes, the Falcon Wing doors.
Yeah.
There are many things that distinguish it, but when it comes right down to it, the price point and what you get, some are saying that the Model X is living on borrowed time.
Well, if the feature from the premium pack that I've got now, where you've got the automatic doors all the way around, stays on the Cybertruck, I'll be fine. I don't want to go back to Model S handles. They look cool, but I went through 8 of them.
Wow. I don't want a Cybertruck. I do want to upgrade my Model X sometime like 2025, and so I hope it makes it that long and that it's got lots of cool upgrades by then.
Yeah.
I'm sure it will. I'm sure there'll be, and I'm sure there'll be maybe 2 other cars introduced before that point too. So I got my fingers crossed for the World car. I really hope that they come out with a smaller car than the 3. I would love to get into a smaller vehicle Tesla made. I think that would be a major hit they would have on their hands. Obviously, you have to have the price has to be correct that they can make profit on it. But man, I'm hoping that the price. I'm hoping for Battery Day. That's what I'm hoping for this to tell us that they've got these great things that are going on that are going to drive down the cost of the batteries and make other cars possible. So
yeah, Model 3 is huge. It only looks small because of the aerodynamics, and when you sit it next to its siblings, they are super chunky.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are.
Yeah.
The only thing that looks big next to is the original Roadster.
Yes,
I think it's tiny.
Yes. That looks like that looks like one of the cars you can buy on Tesla's website for the model cars that they offer.
1/16 scale. Oh no, it's really a car.
We promise.
Our next story, we're going to touch a little bit. We got some photos from some screenshots of people that have upgraded recently, and our last week's story about the HAL 9000 disappearing is certainly the case. Unfortunately, the HAL red eye is now missing on the screen. As you can see here, we've got this little bit of a kind of a sunflower look, and Sentry mode now looks like this.
Yep.
So unfortunately, HAL is gone. MGM has decided they want their IP back and don't want to share it. So they have moved on.
Yeah.
It's not like they were ever competing. It's not like someone's going to confuse that for the movie. That's when you want to protect your IP, is when someone could actually take funds away from you. That this was not the case at all. So I think
buying the movie to watch it.
Yeah. It was a poor choice on their part. They they did what they did.
We'll just have to suffice with firing up Netflix and watching 2001 that way.
A couple of our club members, they were asking, "What is this symbol?" It's like, "Oh, that's Sentry mode."
Well, Casey's got our next story about some additions to the Model Y that we knew were coming, but it didn't show up till recently.
Yes. So remember when we thought that the Model Y wasn't going to be able to tow in the U.S. for an indefinite period of time?
Yep.
Indefinite period of time was like 2 weeks. So for
that time has ended. Yes.
Yeah. So for $1,000, you can get yourself a tow hitch, and your Model Y will be able to tow up to 3,500 pounds. And for $450, you can get yourself a roof rack, very similar to the Model 3 roof rack.
Right, but they're not the same, right?
They are not the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have different roofs.
different widths, and placement is a little bit different as well, I understand.
That's right.
What
Yeah,
about the tow hitch? Do you know what size it is?
it is 3,500 max and tongue weight of up to 300 pounds. And
Yeah,
it has not been specified yet.
Is it a 2-inch receiver so I can use the same Tesla bike rack that I bought for the X, or is it going to be, 1.75 or something else?
2.5 inches. Yeah, exactly.
They don't say for sure, but the article speculates as 1.25 inches. But remember that the Model X was supposed to come with 1.25 inches, and they all got upgraded to the 2-inch.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Well, not even the receiver, not the square, the ball. So you put your own ball on it.
Right. Yes.
Yeah. I wonder if it will, because even on the Model X, it was originally supposed to take 4 bikes, and they downgraded it to 2 bikes. Even though it, if you look at the manual today, it says 2 bikes, even though it's got slot for 4. Yeah.
So with the and I don't tow anything. I've never towed anything.
You shouldn't on your Model 3.
I had a pickup a long time ago. I didn't use that all that much. But my question to you guys is $1,000 comparable to have a tow hitch added to a car?
I'm not sure about a regular car.
Or is it a little bit on the expensive side?
That's exactly what they used to charge for the X. So I'm not sure
in
the rest of the world what it seems like. I'd be comfortable paying that from the manufacturer. I would think that what U-Haul you could probably get done for $250 or so.
Okay.
Personally.
Yeah, when you're buying a new vehicle, what's $1,000 here or there?
I mean, it adds up quick.
Patrick does not count the pennies, obviously.
Well, when you get Tesla stock, I mean,
But it's and then of course the other thing is what about those poor saps buying the performance that really wanted a tow hitch and they got their car without it? Can they go back and get it retrofitted?
That is a very good question. I've been wondering that myself.
It's never been answered. A lot of people have asked it, and Tesla is silent, which is not a good sign.
Not a good sign. And of course, in Europe, that came up as well. When they released the Model 3, the initial ones came out without it, and then it was added later. And then there was a clamoring of people saying, well, what about the car that I bought when it arrived? Can I get a tow hook added? And you know what? I don't think I've heard that ever happened.
Well, we still don't have it here in the U.S. on the Model 3.
Well, I understand that in the U.S. because it was never introduced. But all those people that bought it then what just happened here with the Y.
Right. So in a lot of countries in Europe, if it's not on there from the factory, you can't add it. It's against the law.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So
I guess it's a safety thing. Maybe probably back in the day when U-Haul style.
And too many trailers just randomly popping off down the road.
Exactly.
Passing you.
Somebody ruined it for everybody. Joe's paperclip tow hitch mechanism.
That's right. Yeah. Paper mache tow hook just does not work anymore.
Yeah. I don't understand why you can't get it done at the dealer, though. I mean, that's still a factory solution, but I guess the law is the law.
It's interesting. Well, if you out there have a Model Y and you got it ahead of time, let us know. Were you interested in getting a tow hook? Have you prompted Tesla about that? About getting one added? I'd love to hear from you. You could put it in the comments. You could also let us know on our Twitter feed at the Tesla Life or through our Facebook feed, the Tesla Life #1. And if I could, since I'm going down this road anyways, if you haven't subscribed to our channel at this point, please do. Helps us out, gives us another number, gets us in front of more eyes, and give us a thumbs up at this point, and that helps as well. That gets the show out there and gets it introduced to new people. So we would really appreciate that.
Yeah, and Sandy said that on his Model Y, Sandy Monroe, he said that on his that it didn't appear to have what it needed, but he saw where it could go. So I'm thinking it'll be a tougher retro than it was for the Model 3. Because there are people in the States who had theirs added after the fact.
We'll have to see that, because there are a number of people that have said they wanted the tow hook, and I'm sure they'll try to get it added after the fact. So we'll have to see what their exploits are like for doing that.
Yeah, and then if we remember back to the original Model 3 launch, the board, it was already wired up for towing a trailer, and it had what you needed for the lights and everything.
And it still hasn't happened.
And it still hasn't happened in the States.
Oh my goodness. Well, our next story is they brought a car back from the dead. The Model 3
Easter.
long range, rear wheel drive only, has appeared in the order books in China. So you can now get the car that I bought here in Canada and is no longer available in Canada or the US. You can now buy that car in China. Obviously, this is a demand lever, I would think.
Mhm.
Why would Tesla go through the act of bringing another car back? It's got to be something to do with having a price in the mid segment, or having it one level up, or something along that lines. It must check some sort of box for them to bring back the rear wheel drive long range car and start selling it in China. I've had many friends that have said, why don't they bring it back to where we are? We would love to buy that car.
Too many
And
choices.
there's certainly there's obviously reason for it. We're not privy to it. We can actually guess at what that would be. But as for China, this is obviously something that allows them to check a box to get a different price range to allow people to either upgrade or come down a level from what they could order. So what do you guys think?
It does two things. So remember a couple weeks ago when the start of the health crisis, they started putting in AP 2.5 chips back into the Model 3s over there.
Mm-hmm.
So that allows them to save front motors. The incentives have just come back in China. So now you have yet one more place that you can hit on the target. Maybe somebody needs the range more than they need the dual motors. And so you can go, instead of a short range, you can go with a long range, especially now that they have multiple battery suppliers for China.
That's a good point. If
Yeah.
that brought them below some threshold in the incentive, that
Yeah.
would make it worth it.
Yeah, and then assuming maybe front drive units are just as tight as autopilot computers, and so that would mean that
They could push it a
reduce the
number
price.
of units with just the rear wheel, the rear motor, and still sell those cars.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't know how popular all-wheel drive is in China. Like, I would assume in Canada, for example, where you get snow, that a lot of people would want all-wheel drive. And I don't know about China if all-wheel drive is something that's important in that market or not.
Yeah.
And then here, we make them here, so they don't need that savings of, oh, we've only got this many drive units to distribute this year or this month, and then they can also charge the premium, because now if you want the long range battery, which batteries are in short supply here, now they get the extra profit from you getting the front motor car as well. Because remember, they do have that agreement with Cattle and a couple other battery suppliers to supply Model 3 batteries in China, so they're not as constrained on batteries.
Yep, absolutely. Well, again, we'll just keep our eye on that and see how things change. Because as Casey has said many times in the past, if you get to the point where you want the car that's available today, pull the trigger, because tomorrow it may change. And this is more evidence of that.
Breaking
More
news:
right.
Model 3 long range rear wheel drive in China is gone, sold out.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I'll be honest
that
with
blade
you.
cuts both ways, though. You could also find out that the next day things like a tow hitch are available that weren't. So
Model 3 long range rear wheel drive or all wheel drive.
Right. So,
long
yeah,
range
it's
rear wheel
always a
drive
crapshoot.
with a tow hitch.
But yeah, if you find the one that makes you happy, just get it, and no
pull the trigger
regrets.
then.
Yep. And if
Absolutely.
and drive it, enjoy it. 3, 5, 10 years later, you can buy a new one that'll have all the newer bells and whistles.
No regrets.
Don't sweat it. Yeah.
No regrets.
Speaking of not sweating it, Casey, what happened with DynoMode recently?
People were being dumbasses.
Yeah, there were a few of those.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So I guess Tesla's trying to save people from themselves here.
Yes. So there were several people who crashed their Tesla vehicles, Model 3, Model S, Model X, in dyno mode, despite all the warnings from both the people who showed them how to put it in dyno mode and the car itself. Big warnings all over the screen. And in the Model S and Model X, you actually had two screens that said dyno mode in bright red letters. And so they've reduced what the car will do in that mode.
Maybe explain to people that are uninformed what dyno mode did.
Yeah, sorry. So dyno mode would let you put the car on a dynamometer or test stand. Say you had a, I don't know many places that do the emissions checks without using the OB2, but if for some reason you had to put it on the treadmill, it would make sure that your car could handle that correctly without freaking out because it's an all-wheel drive car, or in the case of the rear-wheel drive cars, it still uses the speed of the front wheels. So it allows it to do whatever it needs to do on the treadmill without braking and without failing the tests. And for the performance dynamometers, you kind of still need them to test, this is the torque, this is the horsepower, whatever, and top speed. And these people mess it up. And supposedly there's a new performance dyno mode, so they can still do what they used to do, but they're not going to be documenting this in writing anymore.
They're not telling you how to unlock that one, are they?
Right.
Yeah, so
right.
it's a problem because when you have it in that mode, all the traction control and driver assist features, all that stuff is disabled. And especially in a performance vehicle, but in any of them, you have a lot of power. And if you're not a professional driver, most people don't know how to handle that. And they might think that they do because they've had all these driver assist features and they just slam on the accelerator and the car takes off smooth. And, well, it's doing thousands of little adjustments along the way for you. And if you don't know how to drift and handle it and do all that, that's not the mode for you to be driving around on the streets. And people were taking this, as Casey just described, it's made for this one specific use case when you're on the car treadmill, the dyno. And people were driving on the streets with it and crashing. So, geez, they've ruined it for everybody.
Yeah. But the good way to think of it is, like you said, the car is doing thousands of calculations a second. Think of it this way. If you've ever had your wheels straight ahead on a decent surface and slammed the accelerator on any Tesla, front-wheel drive, all-wheel drive, whatever, does it ever go sideways? No, it's a straight freaking line. It is helping you.
Right. Yeah. And there's always going to be one tire gets a little more traction than the other, and you would spin out. But like you said, that the car handles all of that, and you go in a nice straight line. Yeah, and unless you're unless you're a professional driver, then you probably don't know how to do that, and you shouldn't be in this mode.
Yeah. I'll quote Elon Musk here when they introduced. I remember if it was the Model 3 or the Model Y, and they were talking about the standard range. He said, "We don't make slow cars." That was his quote. "We don't make slow cars." So even the standard range is what, 0 to 60 in like 5 seconds?
Yeah.
It's faster than V12 sports cars of just a few years ago.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So
now you can still get into trouble with this mode. So again, only use it on the dynamometer.
That's why we cannot have nice things.
But now it makes it harder to create significant damage. You'll only mess your own car up instead of other people.
Yeah, it is funny to think about how, like a fast car from a couple decades ago had a 5 second 0 to 60. And now you can, like, any Tesla does better than that. And they're very affordable. You don't have to go to some tuner. You don't have to have Shelby special design it for you or whatever. It's we've got really powerful machines, and you have to be careful with it.
Yes.
And you're right, as Patrick has mentioned, it's that that everyday driver doesn't realize the car's making all these decisions for them. It's something that they're so used to it just handling in a fast manner that goes straight, or whatever you're pointing the wheels at goes exactly that direction. The days of the old cars, the posi drivetrain lighting up, throwing the car sideways, that's all out the window. No one experiences that anymore. So sitting in a car and disabling all those computer functions and all those rules and regulations of how the car takes off, these people haven't got a clue what kind of power they've got underneath their seat and how to drive it accordingly. So it was just a matter of time once that dyno information got released that we knew something like this was coming.
Yeah, and there's also still the possibility that you could have damaged the vehicle because it does turn off a lot of stuff that it uses to protect itself, and it wasn't made for this. It has a specific use case. Tesla does have a mode for burning up your tires. It's called track mode, V2 and V3.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
Or V1 and V2. Sorry. Yes.
Well, on to the next story. Across the Pacific, Australia has been awarding Tesla a number of new awards. In fact, recently, in an awards ceremony, they swept up 5 of 6 car titles for major automakers for luxury cars. And this was the Model 3 winning these awards. Again, Australia was the last continent to receive the Model 3, so they're a little, again, probably a year and a half bit longer away from where we are. But it's interesting to see that Tesla continues to win awards for the 3, which of course they mopped the floor with here in North America and Europe as well. So this is just a continuation of that Model 3 dominance being pushed over to Australia, and in their time frame, the award season is over, and it looks like the Model 3 has won quite a bit, which is not a surprise because, again, we've seen that through its lifetime here in North America and Europe as well.
Mm-hmm.
Another, yes, some more applause, yes. Also, and I wanted to talk a little bit about this with Casey as well, is that recently, of course, with the updates that Tesla's received, we've got the Sentry mode now being displayed on screen. We've got some other things that are going on, but I wanted to talk to Casey about this particular aspect. Is some have mentioned that the visualization screen has been getting a little bit more detailed. They're seeing, I guess, more fine detail in traffic lights, in the outline or the drawing of people, of the cones that do show up. And Casey's had a few days of using the new update. I just wanted to see if he's noticed anything when it comes to visualization.
Nothing new. So I was surprised when I saw all of this hitting the news circuit. I was like, this has been there for versions. Like if you go back to my 2020.8.1 at the very latest, we got the arrows and the stop signs and everything, but I think that they were there from the holiday preview when they turned it on in December. I remember looking very closely and thinking, man, I wish I had a Model 3 screen where I could zoom this thing in because it looks like that is an arrow. And so I took a picture with the camera, blew it up, and it was an arrow.
Yeah.
But one thing that did change in 2020.12, nothing, they did give us a new stop sign graphic that was, instead of just a generic stop sign, it was pretty and very detailed. So I'm not seeing what made it hit the news just now. Like even with the on this last update, Tesla called out that they are pointing out broken superchargers, but that's also been in since 2020.8.1. So I'm not understanding why it hit now instead of when it hit.
The need for clicks, Casey. Come on. A story of Tesla made minor improvements. There's another release. This isn't get you clicks. You had to talk about a bunch of new cool stuff.
I'm like, hey, 2 days with this, and here's what I found. Almost nothing. Enjoy. And it gets a couple thousand views.
And I'm sitting, of course, with a 2.5 hardware, and I understand that pylons are going to start showing up for me when I get the update. I haven't got the update yet, so I'm kind of waiting. Patrick, did you notice anything on your end that's changed for you?
Car sitting in the garage. I've done 2 software updates and haven't even gone out there. I do want to go try out the new watch the Sentry mode videos on the screen. I bought the big drive and have it out there and in the hidden little compartment. And so, but ever since I installed that, geez, I don't know when, December, I haven't gone and looked at any of the videos. So I've got a lot to cull through and delete. So hopefully this new feature makes it easier to view them quickly. Hopefully there's a mode where you can watch them in 2, 3, 10x speed.
There's not a speed up yet, but it will
That's too
put
bad.
the 10-minute files, the 1-minute files. It will put them into one slider. So at least you're not switching
You can
files.
slide along to
Oh,
see.
okay.
Okay.
Yeah. And with that, I accidentally erased my drive. I was supposed to save some files, and I did, but I saved them to the same drive I took them off of. Don't ask me how I did that. And then I nuked it. So when I started up the new Tesla Cam viewer in the car, it had the easy job of cataloging. What it does, it goes through and it makes thumbnails of everything, and it indexes your drive. So your Tesla Sentry, your Tesla Cam viewer may crash. A couple people have been having that. Just keep restarting it. You might have to restart the car computer, and if it still doesn't take, then you might have to give it a helping hand. But the good thing is, all the new ones, it stores a JSON file that tells you why it recorded and what caused it to. So, like, if it was if it was a Sentry mode, it'll tell you, object detected, or if it was, I got a lot of these user push the button. And
so, assume I don't know what a JSON file is and tell me.
JSON file is a text file that's kind of like serialized, just random data what the car is already processing, and it just dumps the memory in a human readable format and machine readable format. So it'll tell you where it thought it was and how confident it was where it thought it was when the event occurred, what caused it. So if it was Sentry mode, saw an object or a break-in, or if in regular Tesla Cam mode you push the button, or if it was just the regular 60-minute loop that it's always doing. It's pretty cool stuff. Similar to
the viewer show you those as well?
No.
Or do you have to? Okay.
The viewer will show categories, also Sentry, manual, and all. And then I've been told by Nate McCombs, he makes the Tesla Sentry Viewer 2 for the PC. He said that the files that these produce are very similar to the files that the track mode cam for the Tesla track mode V2.
The recording of the track. Okay.
Yeah, because they'll show you the map of the track when you play it back on the PC. It's pretty freaking cool.
Yeah,
that is cool.
Absolutely. Okay, next, Joplin, Missouri has anteed up in the CyberTruck raffle for the Gigafactory that Elon has said is going to happen somewhere in central United States. They've offered up $1 billion in subsidies, in land, in tax relief, combined, and put it into a website called www.choosejoplin.com if you want to go and check it out yourself. Yeah, it's a different type of website. We reported on a website a few weeks ago for Tulsa, Oklahoma, which was kind of tongue-in-cheek. It's a real website. It's a real offer, but they had a lot of memes. They had a lot of jokes written into their website. This one in Joplin is just down to business. They're letting you know the land, where it is, what it's serviced with, the population around it, how many people are skilled workers within 60 miles of the site, within 30 miles of the site. So they're going through all these different stats and information about what makes their plan the best, that Tesla should choose them. So this is just another. We know of Joplin, we know of Tulsa, we know of somewhere in Texas, and we also know of Nashville as people or certain areas that have either expressed interest or Elon had pointed out. And Casey, what should Elon do if they decide to do Texas? We were talking about this pre-show. What would you do if you were Elon and Texas said, we would be interested, Elon? What would you tell them?
So to quote me offline, that they should make sure that Texas stops their bullshit, because you've got to operate service in Texas is ridiculous. You have to contact Tesla in California, who contacts Tesla service in Texas, who you're not allowed to talk to, who's going to work on your car. And if they don't finish it the first time, or you need more work or whatever, depending on who notices, if it's you or the tech, one of you has to call California back to call the other back to. It's insane, and and sales are probably only legal there because if they were to come after it, then they would be in violation of interstate trade, and nobody wants that ball of yarn.
No one wants to involve the feds.
Exactly. And back on these websites, it looks like both Joplin and Tulsa know their customer because Elon is first principles down to the numbers, down to the stats. So this covers that. He's also the meme lord. So
yes.
Could be either way. So we'll see if others get involved. But these two certainly have jumped up the front of the line to start waving their hands and say, "Look at us, and they're doing a good job."
Yeah, I thought for sure it was going to be in Austin, and that this was just Tesla trying to get Austin to make them a better deal. But now I don't know. We'll see. It might not end up in Texas.
Well, Nevada ended up making a good deal last time.
That's true.
Yeah,
Texas was in the running.
They were.
Could Texas possibly lose twice? That would be amazing. Like it's like, what are you guys doing? You had a second swing at the bat and you decided to miss the second time. So
well, I mean, when your legislators only meet every other year and you want the business, you probably should call them back in to have them vote on it.
You would think so.
They didn't bother last time.
Yeah, this is a pretty big deal. You should get your ducks in a row early and often. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, because Tesla is they're not a small company anymore, but they still can't afford to wait around and idle. So, I mean, if they're going to do something and they say they're going to do it, you have just as much window as any of us have to catch Elon on Twitter. That's you guys catching him in the real world. So you got to make a good, strong offer before he orders some land paved and flattened and prepped.
Yeah, exactly.
Although I have to wonder if the whole new factory isn't going to be delayed. So Tesla raised $2 billion with their stock offering before the stock dropped, and that turned out to be brilliant timing. But the economic impacts of our current health crisis are going to drag out for a long time. I mean, it could.
20 months.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say we'll be feeling the economic impacts of this for 2 years, and you can go back and look at the other recessions that we've had and how long they dragged out, and so Tesla might not want to build a new gigafactory. They might want to keep that money in reserve, and we'll see.
Just keep it padding the piggy bank. Absolutely.
Yeah, because they could have. This could slow their sales, even though I think that this will accelerate EV adoption. If that doubles, but the total number of cars is cut by 80%, that doesn't help them, right? So we'll see if they want to be more cash cautious.
Or they could get a plague sale on real estate.
Right? Yeah, they could go the other way too. If you have the money to spend through something like this, you can get great deals and you come out a lot stronger. Yeah. But that's a risk, and
it's a huge
they're
risk.
Not afraid of risks. So they might.
We've seen that, haven't we?
Yes. Yeah.
But I mean, if we look at the companies that started right before the 2008 and the .com bust, they are the ones that survived and they came back strong. I mean.
Well, yeah, it's survivor bias, though, right? There's a lot of them that did not make it through.
There's a ton of them that didn't make it, but the ones that did, they were miserly, they were profitable, but like you said, you're walking on, you've become a firewalker on nails. You gotta get it right.
And firewalking on a bed of nails with glass.
That kind of dovetails into our next story, which is with this economic uncertainty that's going around. Tesla, of course, has laid off or furloughed its workers in a number of spots, and they just indicated through an internal memo that more of the sales and delivery staff would be laid off for some time. And they're also prompting landlords who operate the malls or the commercial centers that their stores are in. They're asking for some rent relief from those landlords to see if they can get some help with that, which many retailers are doing as well. It's not like this is something just reserved to Tesla. Everyone is doing this across the board. In fact, individuals that can't pay their rent are, because of being laid off or their employment being greatly reduced. This is happening across North America. I would imagine the world. I just get most of my news from North America, though, where this is going on everywhere. So Tesla has lined up for this type of relief program if they can get it as well.
Yeah. If you own a mall, you should be giving rent discounts to everybody because they can't operate. And so how do you expect them to pay you? And I'm not saying necessarily free rent, but certainly don't expect 100% rent. You have to share the pain with them, everybody operating in there. Otherwise, they're all going to just close up shop and leave. Yeah, and then when you can reopen your mall, you're going to have a third of your shops. Yeah. So
exactly.
For your own self-preservation, give everybody a rent reduction.
Yeah, there's a YouTuber I follow who owns a computer shop in New York, and his landlord said, "Why don't you just use your business continuity insurance?" So he said, let me go look it up. And before he could even file a claim, his insurance company had emailed him and said, we don't cover plagues. Bye-bye. So
yeah.
So if his landlord is willing to work with him, he can afford to keep the facility. But if they don't, then he might not even have a business to bring back. So,
right. I even saw one where they did have plague insurance, and then they tried to file a claim and it was denied. And they said, "Here are the list of types of plagues that we cover." And this is a novel virus, so of course it was not on the list.
That's even worse.
Oh my God. We only cover locusts. That's it.
Yeah, smallpox, we got you. Yeah, SARS and MERS, but no, not this one.
Oh man!
So if you're thinking, I'm not gonna fall for the okey doke. All right, I need business continuity. I need viruses, shutdowns. Oh, not that shutdown. Sorry.
Yeah, try to name a virus that hasn't yet appeared on Earth in your policy. It's a bit difficult to do.
Yes.
It's a bit difficult.
Yeah.
I need insurance for everything. Okay, it's only 100% of your revenue all the time.
Yeah.
Well, here's another bit of information. Elon had tweeted recently that Berlin, apparently, the Gigafactory there, is going to have the world's most advanced paint shop. Elon recently was on the Third Row podcast and talked a little bit about some advancements that have been happening from Fremont over to Shanghai and now in Berlin. And of course, like any other business, they're taking ideas and information they've gotten from previous experience, and they're trying to make it better for every new build they put in place. So he talked a little bit about this paint shop, excuse me, that would allow multiple extra coats to be put on the car to give the paint more depth. And he was raving about how that is the difference. Multiple coats is what allows you to see that depth in the paint and make it look so much better when you're looking around the curvatures of the car. Which, of course, he wasn't talking about the CyberTruck because that's not even going through a paint shop at all.
Yeah.
But it was kind of an interesting conversation on our Twitter feed, the Tesla Life. We put a link to that. If you had a chance or haven't had a chance, and you're interested into the details of Tesla, this was a great podcast to listen to hear Elon's thoughts. And actually, Sandy Monroe was on the same podcast. So I would certainly recommend you taking a look into it if you haven't already.
Yeah, they called it flop paint. I hadn't heard that term before.
No, neither had I.
Yeah. Really, so this is the one thing that Tesla has is a great pace of innovation. And so paint has been a problem for them. And so instead of just doing paint like everybody else, they're going to innovate because that's what they do. And then they're going to go from being one that people are nitpicking. It's got this bump here or that dent there or whatever. To I hope we'll see one of the best paint jobs in the industry. So it'll be cool to see what comes out of Giga Berlin when they get it up and going.
Exactly.
That'll be sure. I mean, it's been trouble for them since before they even moved into their new factory or their Fremont when it was new to them. They inherited a brownfield site, and they actually had to clean the pollution up from Toyota and GM before they could even get started with their own work. It was incredible.
They also talked a little bit on the podcast about how could you retrofit this into older factories? Could you bring this technology to Fremont? Could you bring it to Shanghai? And he kind of hesitated on that. He indicated that, you know what, it's tough to bring a new technology into a plant that's running because of the delays that you would experience with the rollout that's currently undergoing. He wouldn't want to obviously lose the number of cars they're producing. The paint shop has to be in a strategic area. It can't just be anywhere because, of course, the line has to get to it. It has to feed it properly. The cars have to exit in a certain way to go on to the next station. So it sounds like wouldn't be really an option at this point.
But, anytime soon.
But that kind of inside baseball talk was kind of interesting, just to hear the trials and tribulations that have happened.
Yeah.
Right. If they had worked out all the bugs already and they knew exactly how to do it, and then they have this unexpected shutdown, this might be an opportunity. Yeah. Of course, there's a lot of ifs and woulds.
And unfortunately, you can't get any workers to go in to do it.
Right. That too. Yeah, because you like you were saying, you do have to shut the entire line down. You have to completely stop moving it, stop painting cars. So if all the lines could make CyberTruck, yeah, you could do that and then replace the paint shops. But
yeah.
It sounds like first they're gonna get it in Berlin and tune it up, and then you got to wait for an opportunity or just like make the call. From what I'm hearing around the way about Model Y paint quality, it sounds like it would be better to have it as soon as possible to have the best paint in the industry. But hopefully they at least get it back to par with the Model S and Model X we're experiencing in the end there, because
exactly. Yeah.
Some of the stuff I heard was not nice, but some of them are just regular old Tesla paint. So it seems hit or miss as far as the people complaining.
Fair enough. Okay, well that's the show for this week. Mr. Connor, any shout outs as we exit the program today?
Sure. I am with the Oregon Electric Vehicle Association. You can find us at oeva.org, and we are active on social media, but we're not having meetings, although we're talking about maybe trying to do just a get-together over Zoom or Hangouts or something to see we did our first board meeting that way, and it worked out pretty well. So we might do a general meeting that way coming up. Stay tuned.
Excellent. Mr. Green, what have you got for us today?
Well, so as you know, I run a YouTube channel, and so we spoke on some of the items today. I think would be a great item to watch is since December. So I've gone the whole time I've done this, but since December I've really made an effort to go in depth on each major version of the software that comes down to my car, and I would make sure I spend at least more than one day with each firmware to see what's in there and what's documented, what's not documented, and you might learn a thing or two. So check it out at youtube.com/CaseyGreen. That's KACEYGREEN. I've got the most recent firmware up there now, 2020.12.5, and that one is just by itself. And then from the beginning of March to the beginning of April, they were coming out really quickly. So I've got a mega video that's got all of them in there as well for the ones before 2020.12.5.
But Casey's got them all divided up, so if you want to watch a certain one, you can just go into the notes and go to that particular timestamp. So that'll make it a lot easier.
Exactly.
Right. Or if you're a reporter and you want to write an accurate article about what was in each release,
yes.
you can also watch this video.
Yeah, Casey's got the crib notes right there. Absolutely. Well, we would like to thank you for watching the show today. If you haven't already, please give us a subscribe to the show. That helps us get in front of other people. Give us a thumbs up at this point if you haven't. And we really appreciate that. That helps us out a lot. And again, you can follow us on social media at The Tesla Life on our Twitter feed and The Tesla Life #1 on the Facebook feed, which Mr. Connor adds stories for us. And we appreciate that. We'd also like to thank Lee Moon for our music, which we're going to roll right at this time. And we wish you all a good week and a good night. And we'll talk to you again next week and find out what's going on in the Tesla life.
Stay healthy. Stay charged.
Wash your damn hands.
Good night, everybody.